Welcome to Josh's House of Nerd podcast.
Hello, Nerd Nation. I'm Josh, and I welcome you to the podcast. Grab a cold evergreen goblet of blue milk and make yourself comfortable here at my House of Nerd. Now for tonight's sponsor, Neverland Ranch. Have you ever dreamed of going to the most magical place on earth? Well, then come to Neverland Ranch. We have some of the best amusement park rides on the planet and our own movie theater. Restrictions do apply, not available for boys. Neverland Ranch, where dreams come true, except for if you're a boy.
Okay.
Now today on the
ouch. Oof. All right, let's go.
Today on the podcast, we're on the topic of the month, which is movies from plays, which is given to us by Crit. And today we are talking about my pick, the 2004 movie Finding Neverland, starring Johnny Depp, Kate Winslet, Julie Christie, Radia Mitchell, Dustin Hoffman, and Freddie Highmore. This movie is about J.M. Barrie and his relationship with a family who inspired him to create Peter Pan. Let's talk about that movie, guys. Had all you guys seen this movie before?
I think I saw it when it came. Did I see it when it came out? I'm not sure. I don't think I actually went to the movie theater for this one, so I probably saw it when it went on DVD
or Blu-ray.
Yeah, something like that.
I also saw it when it was on DVD or Blu-ray. I don't typically see these kind of movies in the theater, so I usually wait for them to go to the DVD red box or whatever it was. Maybe it was Hastings back at that time still, but this is I'm always glad I watch it, and when I watched it this time, I'd forgotten a lot of stuff about it, and yet I was not disappointed in this movie. I was not disappointed in the watch at all. Even though I've got to admit, when we scheduled this a couple weeks ago to do this podcast, I was trying to cram it in. I literally got done about 5 minutes before I thought when we were going to do the podcast. To everybody out there, we got on to do this podcast, and John reminded us that he had told us that he was off that week, and neither me or Crit had remembered. So that was fun. But what is your guys' feelings about this? Is this a movie? I mean, did you enjoy the movie? Did you, from a historical like aspect, or just enjoy it for what it was? Or what's your guys' take on it?
I'm gonna let John go first.
So it's interesting. I don't know where I fall with Peter Pan. It's not my favorite story of all time. It's not one I'm like, oh, Peter Pan, and do I have like fond memories of Peter Pan, watching it as a kid or anything like that? No, I think the most fun I've ever had with Peter Pan would have been watching Hook instead, not necessarily Finding Neverland.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting to see a story adjacent to Peter Pan, because this is really what this is.
Yeah.
It's a story adjacent to Peter Pan, hence Finding Neverland instead of something else. It's not something that I'm probably going to watch again. Partially because I feel, I don't know, sometimes I felt like it tried really, really hard to tug heartstrings, and I just never, maybe I just didn't emotionally connect with the film when I was watching it or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it never felt like the tugging of heartstrings was really earned throughout the film for me. So it never really hit home, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm kind of at with the film. Like, it's a fun film. It's interesting. I appreciate stories adjacent and a slice of life type deal. But
you know what, John?
What?
I totally agree with you on the Peter Pan thing. I'm not a big Peter Pan fan at all. And that's why it was so intriguing to me about this one, even though it is a story about the creation of Peter Pan. I like the different kind of aspect of it and learning the history behind it, even though I don't enjoy Hook is fine. I mean, it's still not that great to me, but it's good. It's good. But the actual like Walt Disney's Peter Pan and stuff like that, I could go without ever watching it again and stuff.
Well,
So
and
I agree with you on that.
even like book adaptations and stuff like that never really got to me.
Yeah.
I enjoy the darker theories about the never, the Lost Boys, and killing anyone who gets to be an adult. Like, I enjoy those darker theories
Right.
about Peter Pan, but that's kind of like the extent of Peter Pan for me. It's not like this great story. I think as it stands, it's a unique story.
It
I
is.
think it borrows from other stories, but at the same time, it stands alone. And I think for that, it should be celebrated because it's like a foundational story in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Peter Pan is not necessarily the purpose of Finding Neverland.
No.
But it's hard to talk about it um, without talking about Peter Pan. It's just like if you watch, what is it, Saving Mr. Banks,
Yeah.
the Mary Poppins one.
Mm-hmm.
Same kind of thing. It's hard to not talk about the film or the book or the play without talking, or talking about that movie without talking about the film or the book or play.
Agreed.
So
Yeah,
go ahead, Crit.
well, I had a hard time trying to figure out how this movie originates from a play that isn't Peter Pan, right? It's Finding Neverland.
That's correct. That's
right.
correct.
And like I was trying to figure out how the movie, like I'd never seen the play, so I didn't know. I wonder how many differences there are between the play and the actual film adaptation.
Yeah, I got to wonder that too. What they
Yeah.
adapted for screen versus what they I don't know.
Like the mother's death scene is very beautiful in this film. Like I love the metaphor and kind of how they use the play setting and
I agree.
the set place to kind of tell us what's happening, right? It's very sorrowful. It's very definitely tugs at the heartstrings, but it's like how does that translate when you're actually in a play? You're looking at a stage set and stuff like that. I'm really curious about that.
I agree as well. I thought about how that was different, and I'm gonna let you guys know something that I found out after the fact. The movie or the play actually came after the movie.
Oh,
I did not know that.
Betrayal.
I did not know that until
Wow,
just
so
recently.
That's okay.
So you ruined the entire podcast.
I did. Yeah.
Yep, we got to stop here. Sorry, I mean it doesn't fit it.
We have failed our charter.
It was
and
a
we'll have
little
to create a new one.
Right. It was a little bit like 2001: A Space Odyssey, where it kind of happened at the same time. It was kind of happening, but the actual movie happened, then the play occurred.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Fair.
but one thing I was gonna kind of comment, I'm kind of in the middle between you two. Well, I'm on a polar opposite of that ending scene. The John talked about it didn't really pull on his heartstrings. For some reason, it did for me. But not really until the ending at the part that you just pointed out, Crit.
Yeah.
The part where the mother is, and I don't like tear up very often, but I actually did in this one.
Yeah, I thought it was really effective.
I thought it was really effective. Just that how they were showing her basically transitioning into Neverland. I thought it was very cool on kind of how seamless they made it at the very end. When they were doing the play in the
house.
living room,
Yep.
and then they like transitioned into like it was a bigger area.
Yeah, it was a very cool idea.
Very good transition. Like I appreciate.
I agree.
And to actually use the costuming and actors from the Peter Pan play as the set piece for Neverland, like you could just tell these were all stage props and everything else like that. So I thought it was great.
Yeah, I agree, and that's I think that's the one thing I can really point out about this movie. Right out the bat, I'm going to tell you that I do enjoy this movie a lot. But I think I enjoyed it even more this time because I didn't need to pay attention to the story, but I was paying attention more to like the way the movie was made. And it made me appreciate the movie even more because of subtle things like that transition point with the mother. And then I really like the interactions between Johnny Depp and the family and stuff like that. Anyways, I just thought it was really well paid off in a lot of different settings like that.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned, like, gave the caveat of maybe I just wasn't in the right frame of mind watching it,
Oh, totally.
because I really appreciate the I appreciated the transitioning scene into Neverland. Like, that one's a powerful
Yeah.
scene. The ending scene when they're on, what is it? They're on a, I can't remember if it was on a bench in a park or something.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
From the graveyard, like that transitioning from that and
That was
just
good.
holding of the book, like that whole transition was really good. But again, it just, for me, it didn't, the emotional payoff wasn't quite there. And like I said, caveat, I might not have been in the right frame of mind, because the scenes themselves were really well done.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. I've watched movies like this a lot, and I haven't been in the frame of mind. I'm just like, I know I should be sad right now, but I'm kind of not. So I get that. I mean, that happens with a lot of movies.
Yeah, I had I thought it was interesting, like the how do I phrase that? So like Johnny Depp's character
Mhm.
could have come off as an absolute creep really easily.
Oh, very easily.
And I kind of thought he threaded that, like as far as like acting the piece, really well. I mean, because he
Agreed.
didn't, I don't know. For me, he didn't come across as like a creep. And that's obviously what they were implying. So they kind of brushed the subject matter around him and his obsession with the family and the boys and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But like the way he played that character in this movie specifically just really kind of floated above that controversy. And I thought that was really masterfully done. I'm not sure how many actors could do that, could kind of just play that part
Yeah,
that well and
Depp's
not make it
Depp's
just
range is
absolutely
amazing.
like gross.
Depp's range is just fantastic in this film.
Mhm.
I mean, Depp's range as an actor in general is fantastic, and sometimes I feel like he's disserviced by a few of the movies in. But his performance in this kind of reminded me a little bit of his performance in, was it Transcendence, where he plays the AI.
Mhm.
And the reason I say that is because he has to walk the line of being an emotion, not kind of an emotionless computer, at the same time, ending the world. And so he's walking this fine line, the same thing like you're talking about here, where he's walking that fine line of acting creepy towards this random family with four boys and so I really appreciate the fact that they got Depp to begin with, and how well he did in this.
Yeah,
I can't believe you just referenced Transcendence, by the way.
it was interesting. Yeah, it was interesting to watch him. I mean, he still came across as vulnerable and like he wasn't closed off and stoic and everything else like that. I think he made it a really interesting character. It was interesting to see like kind of how he was written and acted.
Yeah, it wasn't one dimensional.
Yeah, to kind of almost, I don't know, it's weird. At some point in time, it felt like it was almost clinical in the way he observed how the boys played and used that for his fodder for his stories, but at the same time wasn't so clinical as to be detached from them.
Mhm.
And that's that's got to be really hard to do.
Yeah, it's tough. I really I would agree with you on the way that he pulled that off, to be able to play that part where he has a wife that he's kind of estranged from. They both kind of fell out of love for a while, and then the way that he played into it in befriending this family, and honestly, this is hard. This is maybe good writing, good acting, kind of combined. But you talked about threading the needle. That was a very hard needle to thread, and I think they pulled it off really well. Of him being a family friend, but not necessarily until like towards the end, maybe showing that there's feelings necessarily toward her. He never took it to the next level until, really dramatically, until his wife basically left him. He
Yeah, I'm not
always
sure.
kind of kept it kind of separate.
Yeah, and I never got the feeling that he crossed the line
Me either.
to romantic ideas.
I think
Like ever.
I got I agree with the ever part.
Okay.
I think that he would have loved to go there. I mean, you can tell he clearly loved her.
Yeah, but it felt
But
like love of a family member, like not necessarily romantic love. At least
yeah, I
that's the
can see
way it
that.
read to me. I don't know.
I'm a little kind of, I can see it from that point of view. I feel like that what you just said is for about 95% of the movie, I would say yes.
Okay.
And then I
That's fair.
would say towards the end when she's starting to fail a lot more, and he does the whole thing. I felt like there was a little bit more going on, but they it's almost like something that they never quite got to because of her health. And but it's something that eventually would have come if that hadn't been a player in this movie. But,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's
yeah.
definitely possible.
So I guess I felt it because of the potentials, even though there was nothing I believe happened in this movie at all between them two. Nor did they reference anything specifically. So, but again, that's really, really, really hard to do, and do it in a way that doesn't come off as a cheap knockoff.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I really want to point out, we pointed out, I think John pointed out Johnny Depp doing a really good job. I want to point out someone else that did a really good job, which was Freddie Highmore. I feel like at the age that he was, that he did a really good job as Peter. And showed a lot of range. I mean, he's acting against Johnny Depp, and I didn't feel like I didn't feel like he was taking anything away from the
Well,
movie.
you've seen his other film he did with Johnny Depp, right?
Well, yeah, do you know the story
Charlie
behind
and the
that?
Chocolate Factory. No, I don't.
I looked up the story on this, and because of this movie, Freddie Highmore wasn't like really that known. This is one of the few he'd done this and one other movie, I believe. But because Johnny Depp was so impressed by the way that this kid handled himself and acted, he specifically went out of his way to request him to play Charlie in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, and they did a fantastic job in that one too.
Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting that he was that impressed that he specifically requested him. Like this is several years after this, as you know, because you could see in Charlie and Chocolate Factory, he had grown up a bit. And yet he remembered him that far out because of how well he did in this movie.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's
I
very
thought that
cool.
was that's kind of a neat little trivia that I kind of came across. And I would agree with his assessment. You see a lot of child actors have issues. Maybe they're maybe a little. They just don't emote very well. I mean, it's just not there yet. And then you see the very few that actually, at a young age, can do that, which is absolutely amazing. That was one of I remember Henry Thomas from E.T.
Mm-hmm.
Spielberg talking about him being able to do that. One of the reasons he got the job is he was able to cry on cue. If you remember our E.T. watch.
Yep.
And it's he kind of gives me the same vibes in the way that he acts. I know they're two different people, and they act differently, but in the way that kind of he can pull those emotions out. It reminds me very similar to E.T. and Henry Thomas. So, but that was one of the biggest standouts in my mind of this movie. And the other kid that they focused on a little bit, the brother, he did okay too. I mean, he was good too. He just didn't have as much screen time.
Yeah.
But anyways, kind of going back to the other thing, the only thing that kind of got me a little bit in watching this movie this time was kind of how much back and forth there was, and it's probably, I know it's the time and stuff like that, of how much back and forth and how much it would dwelt on. It kind of got a little tedious to me after a little while, of the grandmother and how she was always trying to pull them apart, not letting them be friends, and because it was not socially acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And that got to me a little bit, but I mean, if I had to say, I mean, just ever so slightly.
Yeah, but the most affecting piece of me of what her transition into Neverland, the mothers, was seeing the grandmother's like kind of support and reaction to it. Like she's the first one to clap for fairies. She's the one that's like has the biggest change, I think, throughout the the story, except
That's a
for
good point.
maybe Peter.
Excellent point. I didn't even think about that. I mean, even at the end, now that you're pointing that out, at the end where she asks, Johnny Depp, she, about, them raising the kids, in a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if she hadn't made that transition, I mean, I know she would have never asked him or probably let him know about that,
Right.
given him the option, and she gave him the way out, and which I thought was wonderful that he didn't take the way out.
Yep.
That he cared about him so much that he stuck with them, even though he didn't have to, which I thought was wonderful. So, anything else that stuck out to you guys in this movie?
Well,
Nothing else. I'm good.
yeah, I don't think I have anything else really. I think I think it comes down to the ratings and kind of how it hit you when you watched it.
I think the other one thing before we go to ratings that kind of hit me, I just didn't want to keep talking and not give you guys the chance.
That's okay. Go for it.
The other thing I felt that was kind of interesting about the kind of conception of Peter Pan was, even though I'm not a huge fan of the movie, I don't mind it, but it's kind of, and I don't know if historically it's true. I'm guessing it's true-ish. But I thought I was very fascinated by kind of the little tidbits of how he adapted like everyday life, and how you saw how he adapted what was going on around him into the story, and kind of the insights that he got. That was kind of a little bit interesting to me. See how he went from from square one to to the next step. In creating, say, like Tinkerbell or any of these, Wendy, the sister, because Wendy always came off as kind of the mom,
Mm-hmm.
and you just kind of, it was kind of neat, I thought, seeing how, he and being able to draw the lines to, people in real life, and how he most likely adapted it, because they didn't really go into that, because
Yeah,
it
this
really
isn't a historical
wasn't
piece
about that. Yeah.
because I think when I was looking this up back after I watched it, the father was still alive when he met the family, and there's all sorts of ways that the movie and the screenplay changed the actual times involved, like how many years and everything else, just to make a tighter script for it. So I would not look at this as historically accurate at any real sense. At least not as far as
or at least a condensed historical.
Yeah, when events lined up are more art than they are, factual.
Yeah, fair enough.
So yeah,
that's good to know.
It's not a documentary, that's for sure.
Definitely not. Definitely a semi-historical piece made for entertainment.
Yeah, it's set in a specific time period about a person that did exist and some people that did exist. But the story that the movie is telling is more emotional and less factual.
Yeah.
Which
and
is
that's
fine.
okay.
Yeah, it's fine. A movie. It's not like I said, it's not a documentary.
So, all right. Let's go to our ratings. I'll start. I'm giving this movie an 8 out of 10. Bells ringing.
All right.
And I would definitely buy this movie. I'm surprised I haven't yet. So,
I'd watch this with my mom. She would definitely bawl her eyes out. So
cool. I can see that.
Yeah. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10 dog suits.
Dogs. That poor guy in that dog suit. That was interesting too, on how the guy in the movie, how they made him look like he's like, what the crap am I doing in a dog suit? And then kind of his like, he saw the overall like arc of it all and stuff,
the acceptance,
and then he saw the acceptance. I thought that was a cool part. He's like, oh, I get it now, finally.
Yeah,
I don't know in a dog suit.
I don't know if bringing in the orphans is factually true, but that is kind of a cool idea. It's like, this really works better with kids in the audience.
I was
Yeah.
going to look that up. I totally forgot to do it to see if that was real because that was a
That
cool
looks
part of the movie.
it's a little too perfect to
Yeah.
probably exist in real life. I mean, I could be wrong, but I highly doubt that actually happened that way. But
Yeah,
you
that
know,
would be
maybe it did.
nice to know, but I couldn't come up with that fast enough to know
Yeah,
if
All
that's true
right.
or not.
Are you ready for my picks?
for sure. And
Okay,
hopefully the
so
plays can
I'm going to preface this that all of these films are based off of plays that I had a role in because I was a big theater geek in high school and
Oh,
middle school.
oh,
Rock
we
on,
can't
dude.
be friends anymore. No, I'm kidding.
So all of these are based off of also off of plays that I had a role in.
Okay.
All right.
Fire.
So first one, Captain's Log. I'm screwed.
Okay.
Second one, Meet the Brother. Third one, it's 1940s Tinder with a twist.
Ooh.
So Captain's Log, I'm screwed. Meet my brother, and it's 1940s Tinder with a twist.
I mean, I feel like he's trying to draw me into number one, but
He's trying to.
I'm trying to draw you into either all of them, honestly.
Well,
The
'cause
only
you-
one, the second one, I struggled with the title though, so I didn't want to give anything away,
Yeah.
and I had struggled with it not doing a crappy title.
I was
Alright.
thinking one or three. It sounded kind of interesting to me.
Okay.
I mean, the number one is definitely a suck in, but I would be fine with three if you wanted to go three because that also sounds interesting. Tinder with
Let's do number one. I'm
Okay.
interested in that one.
Okay,
all right.
we'll start with number 3. 1940s Tinder with a twist is Arsenic and Old Lace.
Oh wow, I've never seen that one.
And I played Jonathan. It's about 2 old ladies bumping off old men that have no one to live for.
Interesting.
It's a great film and a great play.
I have to
Meet
watch
My
that one.
Brother is The Importance of Being Earnest,
Oh, I've
which
never
is-
heard of that.
which is based off a Wilde play. Oscar Wilde play, The Importance of Being Earnest, which in itself is based off of the Shakespearean play, A Comedy of Errors.
Okay.
And I played. So we did a little bit of Importance of Being Earnest, and I played Jack Earnest, and then we did also Comedy of Errors, in which I played Dromio. So,
Okay. So before you do number one, don't tell us who you played, and we'll try to guess.
okay, okay. So number 1, Captain's Log, I'm Screwed, is Macbeth, 2010 with Patrick Stewart.
Oh, that one's okay. Yeah.
Oh wow, I have never seen that
So,
one.
It's newer. It's a little harder to find. Let me know if you have an issue finding it.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I found it on BritBox.
Yeah, I don't have that.
So, well, if you can download the Apple TV app for free, and then you can get a 7-day free trial to BritBox.
Okay.
So you can find them that way.
I'm sure I'll find
All
it.
right. We'll find it.
Macbeth, huh?
Macbeth,
I'm gonna say
2010.
you played Macbeth.
Okay.
You played the
let's not-
skull.
Let's not guess yet. Let's not guess yet.
It looks like okay. You can watch it now on Apple TV for $4, and if you can get PBS's app and Masterpiece, you can stream it there for free. It looks like
Okay.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
so. It is able to be found and watched. Yeah, it's an interesting film. I think you guys will really enjoy it.
I don't know if I've seen Macbeth all the way through, to be honest.
Did I tell you who I played in Arsenic and Old Lace? Or no, I didn't.
Yes. I thought you did.
No, I played Jonathan, which was the
Yeah.
main antagonist.
Yep.
Sounds like
Okay.
fun.
It was super fun. I got to take all my inspiration from the great Boris Karloff. So I don't know.
Right
if-
on.
yeah, it was
Yeah,
really
I know.
fun. I
I
enjoyed
know
it.
who Boris Karloff is, but all right.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Yep, I'm excited for it. It should be a fun film.
All right. All right. Well, we'll look forward to next week. Let's thanks for being on the podcast tonight. This was a interesting conversation. And in an interesting topic. I really like this topic. So and to everybody out there listening, thank you for supporting our channel. Click the like button if you liked what you heard here. And as always, to everybody out there, may you be excellent to each other and live long and prosper from all of us here at Josh's House of Nerd. Have a good night.
Thanks for watching. For more nerdy awesomeness, please like and subscribe.